Hi, folks. We are back, and it's Thursday of the Weiner Wellness Week. I'm Joe Messino, and you know what? Today, we brought back for the third time in a row, special treat for you, all the way from Florida, Tampa, Florida. You know what? She's here, Dr. Kathleen Geringer. Now, she was here uh, one time virtual, one time in person, now back to virtual. We'll see if we can get her back to Pittsburgh. She did say she loves the city. Isn't that right, Kathleen?
Absolutely. The city, the food, the people. It's amazing. I love
It
it.
was great time. Really great to have you here. But we're glad you're back, at least virtual, because you've got so much information for everybody. You know, your last workshops were phenomenal. But this one's a little different, isn't it? You got something new for us today. What do you got?
Yes, we're talking about the brain, how to protect our
Ah,
intellectual capital, how to overcome stress and anxiety. So many people are battling with anxiety that we
yes.
need to address that.
Okay. Well, then let's get to it.
All right. So, protecting your intellectual capital, how do we overcome stress and anxiety? It's a subject that it's very dear to me just because of what's happening in our society within the last 2 years. So, let's kind of like start talking about that. Welcome, everybody. My name's Dr. Kathleen. And today, of course, we're going to be talking about our brain and how we're able to control our stress. Slide number 3, stress. Stress is mainly an external pressure that is hard for us to cope with. So when we talk about stress, we're talking about an external factor that create this stressful response. However, anxiety anxiety affects about 40 million Americans, and about 40 million Americans actually suffer from this anxiety, and that's 18.1% of our population. Number 4. Slide number 5. Everyone experiences stress and anxiety at one time or another. So, what is the difference between stress versus anxiety? Stress is a response to a threat or a situation. See, our body is designed to overcome stress or expose to stress and have a very immediate response to it. However, anxiety is a little bit tricky and it's a little bit different. Anxiety is a reaction to a stress. So, stress, external, anxiety is how our body actually responds to it. Stress. So when we're under stress, we usually know that what we're stressed about. And the symptoms of stress typically goes away after the situation is over with. Anxiety, however, the most common symptoms of anxiety disorder is excessive worrying. So the stressful situation already passed, but your mind keeps rerunning that same situation over and over and over again. And that manifests itself to this anxious anxiety vibration. So worrying associated with anxiety disorders, it is so disproportionate to the events that trigger it and typically occurs in a response to a normal everyday situations. For example, you're standing in a Starbucks line, try to get your morning coffee. And then, of course, today they have technical problems with their little app. And instead of just saying, hey, you know what, that's fine. If I get my coffee, I'm okay. If not, I go to Dunkin' Donuts. I go down the street to get another cup of coffee. But instead, you're like, oh my gosh, I can't get my coffee. I'm going to be late for work. And then your mind just races, and then you create all these stressful situations over just one little external factor that you could say, hey, you know what, I didn't get my coffee, it's okay, let me go to the next store down the street. So that excessive worrying is what triggers this anxious mind and for your body to really over respond to one small little stressful situation. So, chronic stress and anxiety can actually affect our health, causing symptoms from headaches, high blood pressure, chest pain, heart palpitations, difficulty in concentrating, skin rashes, fatigue, upset stomach, IBS, constipation, irritability, restlessness, muscle aches and pain, and also your immune system gets compromised and you're more prone to colds, illnesses, or even loss of sleep. And it affects your hormones, which we will get into, such as loss of sex drive. So, chronic stress and anxiety will rob your body from producing adequate amount of hormones that your body needs to function daily. Let's talk a little bit about hormones. So, what are hormones? Hormones are chemical messengers that have a huge impact on your body. They travel through the blood. They cause changes to the organs and the tissues in the body. They work in a lock and key fashion. So, what parts of the body do your hormones influence? Your hormones influence every single part of your body. When it starts to the brain, the hypothalamus, the pineal gland, thymus, which helps with our immune system, our stomach, our pancreas, ovaries, uterus, which is our sexual organs, the thyroid, parathyroid, liver, adrenals, kidneys, and testes. So hormones have these receptor cells throughout your whole entire body. And of course, when we're under stress or when we get stressed, the release of cortisol signals the body to deal with the stress. Cortisol is not a bad guy, he's a good guy. It's how our body is designed to be able to cope with stress and overcome stress. However, when the cortisol levels in the blood gets way too high, the receptor cells in our brain where the hypothalamus sits, it shuts off the body to the body's normal stress response. What in heavens does that mean? That means that when you're under stress, what happens is that cortisol starts to go up, which is a normal response. But if you're exposed to that chronic stress over and over again, it really confuses your brain. And of course, we know that it's going to connect to our gut. We know our gut, our stomach, our digestive tract is our second brain. So your gut microbiome is really important. Chronic stress and anxiety can affect your gut flora. The gut microbiome and a person's mental health appears to be able to influence each other. Most of our neurotransmitters are produced in our gut. So, what is this gut brain connection? So, your gut is your second brain. 90% of nutrient absorption is in your small intestinal tract. The length of the small intestinal tract is about 23 feet long, pretty long, like a tennis court. Vitamins from the food, including vitamins A, D, E, K2, B12, vitamin C, zinc, are all absorbed in your gut lining. So, according to Eastern medicine, our gut is our second brain. Sometimes you feel like, hey, you know what? I have a gut feeling about somebody. Of course, that's your brain telling you something. Let's kind of like break it down a little bit about this anxiety. I've been in practice for over 20 years, and I'm encountering young kids that are complaining about anxiety. It's like, what is this all about? You haven't even paid a mortgage bill or a car payment or insurance payment yet. What are you anxious about? But more and more kids, younger adults, are battling with this anxiety. So, anxiety since childhood, it is because that child is probably lacking of neurotransmitters or hormones. So, what happens is the treatment of these deficiencies will actually restore the calmness. For kids, it's really, really how could I say it? Really, I don't want to say easy, but because they're so young, the cells are still forming, the brains are still forming. So, what we can do is that we can address their anxiety through nutrition. If we can figure out what is going on with the child, what we can do is that we can actually support them nutritionally to actually feed their body, feed their brain, feed their gut what is needed to calm them down. People that are suffering from occasional anxiety, it might be caused by, again, a nutritional deficiency. So I usually say if you feel like a little bit anxious every now and then, have your nutrient levels checked, either by a company called SpectraCell, NutraVal, or even food intolerance testing, which I love and I do at our practice. So, the correction of these nutritional deficiencies will definitely help you feel better and actually eliminate the excessive anxiety. Sometimes when we eat the same food over and over again, it saturates our cell wall. So it doesn't open up the cell for new receptor sites. When we deal with like food intolerance, what we need to do is remove that food intolerance for about 4 weeks or 6 weeks and just open up those cells so the new foods will get into the cell so your body's able to absorb a lot better. And again, it goes back to food. It goes back to it's not what we eat, it is what our body's able to absorb. The next one is severe anxiety. Severe anxiety is pretty severe. These are chronic anxiety. These are the patients that wake up feeling anxious already. These are the patients that can't even focus because their heart is racing so much all the time. So when it gets up to the point when the anxiety is severe, hormones rather than nutritional deficiencies are likely the cause. So when correcting these hormone deficiencies, you would feel calm and finally be freed of this excessive fears. Again, if you are battling with severe anxiety, nutritional deficiency, yes, that's there. But what happens is that now it's up to the point where it really affects your hormones. So these hormones that are involved when we deal with these severe anxiety or patients that deal with anxiety on a regular basis, low levels of testosterone and low levels of DHEA. They are they are associated with excessive levels of adrenaline, noradrenaline, and neurotransmitters that are linked to the greater levels of fear and nervousness. You see, these neurotransmitters gets heightened. It's like hyperactivated. So then what happens is that when your brain gets like that, your heart rate starts to increase. And again, that's when we battle with high blood pressure. Other hormones that are involved is progesterone. I see this in so many women. And actually, it's the signs and symptoms of low progesterone is the root cause before a patient is placed on Prozac, Xanax. So have your progesterone levels checked. Progesterone deficiency is associated with moderate to high anxiety. It is accompanied by outbursts of uncontrollable anxiety during the daytime, especially in women during her PMS. So I always tell my ladies, if PMS is bad, wait until you get to menopause. It's a disaster because the mood swing is like a roller coaster ride that every little thing, everybody around you is walking on eggshells. And we don't want to live like that. Have your hormones checked, figure out what it is, and balance it out because it's not your fault. It's your hormones that's a little bit unbalanced. Oxytocin, this is one of my favorite hormones actually. Oxytocin isn't just for the sex hormones, but it is. So, oxytocin deficiency is associated with mild to severe anxiety, especially in social interactions. So, oxytocin is well known for the love hormone, but men actually needs oxytocin too. So anybody that has like these signs and symptoms, fear of having like showing or encountering like all these emotional stuff, social gathering, getting together and networking, the fear of being negatively judged or evaluated by other people, these are signs and symptoms of oxytocin deficiency. Because the oxytocin in the body is not up to par, it creates a little bit of a social anxiety where you don't want to be in the crowd. You want to kind of like hide in the corner. We see that in a lot of our introverts. And the next hormone, which is, I think it's really important, it's called melatonin. Our body produces all these hormones naturally, but unfortunately, when our bodies deplete of these hormones, your body tries to kick in and try to like compensate and balance it out. And what do we see? Symptoms starts to show up. So melatonin is really important. It's actually released throughout the day slowly. At night is when it starts to increase. That's when we get into our deep, deep sleep. So melatonin deficiency is accompanied by nighttime anxiety. These are the patients that they're ready for bed, everything's perfect. They're drinking their little calamine tea and they're kind of like in their little Zen state. And then suddenly a thought triggers their brain and it keeps racing and racing and they constantly worrying about silly stuff, their to-do list. Oh my gosh, I forgot to do this. Oh my gosh, I got to get the laundry done. What am I going to eat tomorrow? So this crazy worrying, actually it becomes repetitive. And the repetitive worrying thoughts that keeps them up at night and very tense at night. So these are the people that is not or unable to shut their brain down so then they can go into that deep, deep sleep. Most of the time, when I hear patients that telling me, oh, yes, I take 5 milligrams of melatonin, I take 20 milligrams of melatonin, and it really doesn't do me any good. I'm one of those people, actually. And I'm super sensitive to supplements anyway, and my body responds really well to supplementation. However, with melatonin, it doesn't really respond because my underlying deficiency is my progesterone. So a lot of times we have to think outside the box and say, okay, what hormones are involved? How come one person is able to take this supplement and they're able to go to bed? How come another one takes the same one and they're not getting a response to it? It's not because it doesn't work. It's because everybody's a little bit different. So really be in tune to your body, but your body needs to get into that deep, deep sleep in order for your body to repair itself. And when we talk about hormones, it's really important and nutrition is really important. But I personally feel the most important part of this whole entire wellness journey is the power of the mind. Our mindset is so important. Like I said, I've been in practice for over 20 years, and I usually do blood work to establish the baseline. We go in there at our facility, at our clinic, we balance their hormones, we support their nutrition, we do everything that we need to do to get our patient well. After 4 to 6 weeks, we'll remeasure their labs again. And at that time, I do something called a report of findings. So I compare the pre-labs versus the post-labs. And I want to say about 10% of my patient, I look at it and I can see a huge difference between their hormones gets optimized, their cholesterol level goes down, their anti-inflammatory markers went down within 6 weeks, and their vitamin D level is up to par. And then I sit in front of them and they're like, I don't feel a difference. And I'm like, what the heck? Your blood don't lie. What else is going on in your body? And that's when I give them a tissue box, and then they start to cry because they need to vent or let it go. And most of the time is because they're trapped in their negative mindset. And we talk about the power of the mind. It's really important because here we are scientifically showing pre and post lapse the changes in there. So why aren't you feeling it? And these patients, it's layers and layers stuff that they have to unravel. Most of the time, when we think about mindset or things like that, they go and seek a psychiatrist, a shrink, or they pop a Zoloft or a Xanax or some kind of antidepressant to numb that brain down. But instead of just numbing it, putting a band-aid on it, why not go and create something to calm the mind down? And one of the things that I usually advise my patient to do is do yoga. Yoga is really important. Regular yoga practice has shown to reduce the symptoms in people diagnosed with anxiety disorders. And why is yoga so important? Not only are you moving through the poses, but it actually helps to release a lot of trapped energy. And we call that trapped energy a stagnation of chi. So by moving along of the different poses, what happens is that it really helps your lymphatic system and boosts up your immune system. Meditation is key. Our mind races constantly. Our to-do list is like miles and miles long. So it's so important for you to build a routine, especially a bedtime routine, where you can actually listen to some music and really kind of like calm the mind down a little bit. And you don't have to sit there and start manifesting things because, again, you're activating your mind again. So just kind of like just chill and just like listen to music and calming music. So what it does is that it actually improves the anxiety levels about 60% of the time. And listen to this, it also increases employees' productivity by 120%. Because what happens is that when you're able to calm your mind down, your neurotransmitters get to rest and repair itself. So when you wake up in the morning, you're more energized. You don't need to reach for that cup of coffee to wake you up or take like at least 2 to 3 hours to really get things going. And the last one is a little bit out there, I have to say. It is called energetic medicine. I'm not sure if our world is open to this yet, but this energetic medicine has been around for thousands and thousands of years. I am also a licensed acupuncturist. We talk about meridian system. We talk about acupuncture. So this type of medicine's been around for a long, long time. But when we combine this energetic medicine with scientific medicine, this is the world that we're living in right now. And I want to say it's going to be mainstream medicine, probably give it another 10 or 15 years. So here you get to listen to me talk about it a little bit. This energetic medicine is what I call photons. Photons are kind of like scientifically, they have no polarity. They don't have a positive atom or a negative atom. What it is it's really neutral. It operates in like the speed of light. So photons actually carries energy. It carries information, and it also carries momentum. So when we talk about vibration, when we talked about positive mindset, when we gratitude, love, all that signals throughout our body and create this nice little vibration. And what I had at my clinic, actually, it was just last week, just to see what is this all about and if there are changes and if this energetic medicine actually I can see with my own eyes, actually. So what I did was that this slide up here on the left hand side is, of course, my head right there, the before and the after. The first slide, what we had done was that we took a droplet of my blood and we created two slides. One slide, we put it under the microscope. The other slide, we put it right by the photon sphere. And this looks like a little crystal ball. No voodoo stuff or anything. It's not plugged in. It doesn't run on batteries. It doesn't charge anything. The only way it charges through light because photons operate on the speed of light. So it just sits right there. And what we did was that we let it sat there for about 20 to 30 minutes. And we took that one slide and we put it on the microscope. Look at the changes, the before and after. That is amazing without doing anything much, but allow the energy to heal my cells. So if you look at the top slide, the before slide, you see that red blood cell are nice and round and they should flow freely. But you can see that they're a little bit, I don't want to say sticky, but they're pretty together, pretty clumped together. And then after being exposed to this photon energy, you can see the separation of these slides. It's great. I'm actually will be speaking with Top Doctors Magazine down in Miami in a couple weeks. I'm going to see if I'm able to share the stream with this platform because I just love sharing my knowledge with everybody and say, hey, you know what? Medicine doesn't just stop at science. There's a little bit more to it. And if we keep our minds open, who knows? The healthier we get, the happier we will be. And on the right-hand side is a patient of ours, and you can see her blood on the slide on the top one. And then you can see again what it looks like after being exposed to this photon. Well, let's end my presentation and say thank you so much for tuning in. And I love you guys. And I'm so excited to be able to share my knowledge and just to get everybody out there being in tune with their body. Yes, we live in a very stressful environment. Yes, our anxiety gets heightened and stuff like that. But don't forget, you're able to control it. Don't forget, you're able to heal your body from the inside out. So I'm always here. Message us or reach out to us and just follow me on social media. I'm usually on there quite a bit. Thank you.
Wow. Hey, you know what? You never fail to enlighten and surprise. This is a totally different presentation
Isn't it
than
different?
you've done the last two times. And it
Uh-huh.
was phenomenal. I love energy medicine. I love, everything about it from frequency to light and everything, in between, because it's all the same. As you said, it's all energy.
Yes.
But if you're moving into this avenue, I'm on board.
Oh,
Okay, because
yes.
this is where it's at. The future of medicine, Dr. Kathleen, is energy,
It's
frequency medicine, right?
energy, it's frequency, it's photons, it's vibrational energy. I mean, everything vibrates. Our
Yes,
earth vibrates, our DNA vibrates. We all vibrate at different frequency. Sometimes when you just walk into a room and you just have a gut feeling about somebody or something, that's a
yes,
vibration. And people with low vibration, they're the one that are sicky. They're the one that
yeah.
with the heightened anxiety and the sleep issues. So if we're able to like reach as many people as we can out there, and thank goodness for Nutritional Frontier putting on these wellness week, I think it's so important. So a whole thing is that in order for us to change the healthcare in America or in the world is to change our mindset and change your mindset to well care instead of sick care. Let's all get well together. Let's all come together as a whole. Let's all vibrate at a nice high frequency so we can heal our body from the inside out.
Raise your frequency. That's what it's all about, right?
Yeah.
Starts with your thoughts.
Hmm.
Everything that you do starts with a thought. Every single thing you can see with your eyes was a thought before it was there, physical, before it was actually developed or created. So everything is thought. And there's so much
Absolutely.
energy and frequency in thoughts, right?
Very. And just like the one patient I illustrated, pre-lap, post-lap, everything looks perfect
Hmm.
scientifically on paper. So sometimes it's not their fault. They're stuck with that broken record. They're stuck.
Yes.
And what I try to do is that I try to explain it as, remember our records back then, the little black records. And so when we play the
Yep.
record, or when we mistreat it, or we accidentally scrape it or scratch it, we play that record. We can't really hear the lyrics really well. So we have something called epigenetics where we're able to turn on or off our genetic expression. So those that are vibrating at a very low frequency, their record gets a little bit scratched. Now we're in the digital world. So if we're able to raise their frequency into that digital world, into the Apple playlist, wow, isn't that a different type of
Yeah,
frequency?
that's a great analogy. Great analogy.
Yeah.
Another one that I use a lot with frequency is, if we don't listen to radio very much anymore, right? But
Uh-huh.
radio was all frequency. I mean, a station was at a certain frequency. If that station was 99.1, you couldn't listen to what was on 102.5. They were
Mhm.
different frequencies. You have to be in tune with the frequency, and that's all, thought based. This is great stuff. Great
Yeah.
stuff. And of course, we'll have you back in July if you'll be there.
Okay, I'm going to Jordan
All
in
right.
June, so I should be, back in the country in July.
Oh, good. Good. Well, I'll make sure I let you know next time I'm in Tampa, but love to see you soon. As always, what a pleasure. You are such a high vibrational person.
Thank you.
It comes through. It comes through. Thank you so much. And
It's
you want to
all
put
out
your
of love.
contact info back up there
Mhm.
again so everybody can see
Sure.
that? Can you do
Absolutely.
that, Phil? Phil will do that for you.
Thank you.
So if you need to get a hold of Dr. Kathleen, if you want to schedule with her, she's available. She's always available. She's always willing. And here it is right here. There's Dr. Kathleen Garinger.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
Lots of
Kathleen.
love.
Always a pleasure on you. Love you. See you soon.
Uh-huh.